Hillary, my oldest daughter, and I were thinking, it would be nice before the season of gardening is on us, to do a lecture series and help each other um, do the best we can with our gardens. So I am a certified master gardener. I own a very small garden shop in Pleasant Valley called Airy Mountain. We grow what we sell. Everything is no herbicides, no pesticides, no growth regulators, no systemics. And we'll talk about the importance of that as we, oh, excuse me. So we've decided to start this lecture series with just a basic talk about gardens. I find when I teach, if we can all be on the same page, speaking the same language, so that when I talk pH and temperature, etc., that we're speaking the same way. I very much like to use the Latin terminology when I speak, because this is my profession. These are the people I hang out with, and um, the Latin really helps you to know what you're talking about. When I can, I will use the common names, and sometimes I forget them. So if you can help me along, um, it's green. Um, so uh, we, I like to use the Latin simply because there's no misunderstanding one another when we speak, especially with professionals. Um, I just find that to be the best way to go. So today's topic is going to be just the basics of gardening so that we understand and you understand why you're doing what you're doing in the garden. Um, I'm going to start by saying, you know, in August, when your garden or your grass is brown and the lawn looks terrible, and then on the radio comes all these advertisements that say, "Are you an embarrassment to your neighbors? Are you ashamed for them to see your front lawn? Well, get on down and buy Scott's Miracle Grow for gardens ever greener, bigger, better." Um, but they don't say to you, your grass is resting in August. And it doesn't matter what you throw on it, it's going to get greener when the weather gets warmer. So, a lot of what you hear on the radio, a lot of what you see in advertisement is nothing more than that. It really um, isn't in your best interest to believe everything they say. Remember, they're in the business of selling. So this class, we're going to learn how to do things correctly and why we do them correctly. And in the end, you will not need um, bug sprays and chemicals and more of that stuff that your garden and the earth and the next 7 generations do not need. So we're going to turn that around. So once you understand what it is your plants want and need, and occasionally there will be a sacrificial plant. Get over it. Um, so we're going to work in that direction. In my greenhouse, I use no controls except wasps. I invite them in. I let them come in and I let them do what they want to do in the greenhouse. And they are wonderful. So if you can make friends of some wasps, bring them to the garden and we'll talk about how to do that. So we've broken this program up into about nine different sessions, and feel free to ask questions. I don't know everything. I'm still learning myself. I've only read probably about 1,000 books on gardening. My library overfloweth. Um, but any good gardener has at least a couple good books. So we will not be doing chemicals here. All right. So that's how we'll begin. So let's start with the very, very basics. Welcome to New England, where everything changes day by day. What we had for weather last Thursday is not what we had for weather yesterday. It goes up, it goes down. You can't count on anything except a good neighbor. So in New England, we are here in Connecticut considered Zone 5B. Zones are pretty much United States is designed designated in zones. But for example, England, those areas, those countries don't use a zone system like we do. So a lot of your plant material, a lot of your information is written by, when you're reading, is written by people who are not from this zone. So when they say, what the heck? You don't have your basils out? It's March 1st. Don't worry. You don't want your basils out on March 1st, right? So find out who those people are writing those articles and what zone they come from when they're giving you a timeline for planting. All right. So we're a 5. They say 5B. I say a 5. Um, and we'll talk. You could be a 6 if you understand microclimates, and we will talk about those. All right. So when you're looking at a tag for a rose, and you must have the rose, I've been there, you must have it, and it says zone 6, then you need to say, well, I'm a 5, which means too cold. Okay. The further south you move, the higher the zone numbers become. All right. So a rose that might survive in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, is not going to survive in Hartland unless we use trickery and wizardry and other tricks that we know.
When I do my search on my zone, I'm in North Granby. It says I'm 6A.
Don't believe. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
A lot of it has to do with elevation as well, and that plays into microclimates. We know that when we are in West Hartland and we get to the house that used to be called Journey's End, that's where the snow picks up. But south of Journey's End, there's no snow, and it's in the same town on the same road. So microclimates play a big part in that. So I think in order to spend your money wisely, think of yourself as a zone 5. Um, and then if you buy something, for example, that is a zone 4 is north, the Vermonters, those wonderful people from the Green Mountains. Yeah, we love them. So those are more zone 4. So those plants in a 4 will do well for you. All right. But I have spent a lot of money trying to get a Himalayan blue poppy to grow for me. A blue poppy. Who wouldn't want it, right? Yeah. No, I can't grow it. And the reason is I'm not cold enough. My altitude's not high enough. And I can whine and cry all day, but I'm not getting the blue poppy. Um, so as long as you understand that you can't have it all, but what you can have will be beautiful, then we'll start with zone 5. Okay, the next thing we want to talk about is pH. pH is a measurement of the acidity of your soil. The reason this is important is plants need a certain pH in order to take up nutrients from the earth. So if, for example, I'm going to throw this out there, a white sage, a salvia, um, it, 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 that will grow beautifully west of the Mississippi. But east of the Mississippi, not so much. Our soil is too acidic, right? So a pH scale starts from 0 to 14. Right? The middle number being 7 is considered neutral. New England uh, the Hartland area, this area especially, uh, is acidic and tends to be around a 5. All right. The way you know you have an acidic yard, an acidic garden, do you have mountain laurels growing there? Do you have pine trees growing there? Do you have moss uh, growing there? Those are very good indications of a about a 5 pH. All right. Now, if the pH is you can do a soil sample test from the Yukon Extension Service. You tell them that's what you want. They send you out a little packet, and then they send you off to go around your yard and scoop up soil, put it in a pot, mix it up, stick it in a sampler bag, and then send them a note what it is you would like to grow. And they will tell you how to amend your soil. And if you can say, look, I'm not going to use chemicals, then they'll say, okay, use this, this, and this. Sure. Yukon Extension Service. They have a branch in Torrington, or they did, one in West Hartford, but you can look that up and just request that. Yukon Extension Service is also a very good resource if you have a question you need answered. Um, as a master gardener, in order to become a master gardener, you have to work in that extension service and answer phones and answer questions and serve the people so that you know how to use the system.
They charge for that?
Soil sample, yes. Questions, no. Okay, so you can ask what you want. And here's the deal: is as a master gardener, you can call UConn and speak to any of the professors to get any of the information that you need, and they'll help you along. So your questions are going to come from your answers will come from a reliable source. All right. So you have the right to use that service, and you should. Wonderful. All right. So we've covered zone, we've covered pH. Um, Amending your soil to change pH, the most important amendment here in this area would be lime. Lime will change the pH of a soil, but over time, all right, over time. It's not a quick fix when you do things organically, right? But you can change it by using lime, and the old timers always would call it sweetening the soil.
Can you use wood ash?
You can use wood ash, but wood ash is different because if what you burned is pine, the pH of pine is high,
Right.
the wood ash will be high. If you use like a locust or an oak or more of the hardwoods, the ash, yeah, ash, um, though that will be good, but it is not. Wood ash is an amendment for something else in the soil, not really for pH, and we'll get to the something else.
So are the lime bags that you buy at,
Yep,
just those
that's a
lime
lime. Yep, yep. The best time to begin to amend your soil is when the earth unthaws and the rains start to come. So in the spring is better to amend than in the winter when things get flushed away. All right. The next thing that I would like to speak to you about is fertilizers, understanding how fertilizers are written and used. All right. There's three, three numbers on a fertilizer package. The first number is for nitrogen. Nitrogen is what feeds the green leaves. It feeds the leafiness of a plant. So if you were to grow lettuces and spinach and chard and those kinds of vegetables, you want a lot of nitrogen in the soil because that's what they're going to feed on. Okay. The next number is a phosphate. Phosphate is for fruits and flowers. All right. So if every plant has its mission, so they all, some of them you're eating the leaves, some of them you're eating the fruits, some of them you're eating the roots, some of them you're not eating at all. But so that we understand. So the middle number is for flowers and fruit, right? The last number is for root and stem development, all right? And this is where the wood ash comes in. Wood ash is a great soil amendment to strengthen roots and stem strength and structure. Right? So let's pretend that we're today planting a fruit tree. We've dug the hole and we've taken all the rocks out. Um, we know Hartland has plenty of them. We'll be there all day getting the rocks out. So that's day one. Um, dig it big. When you put the fruit tree in, and we'll cover planting later, but I just want to get a picture in your mind. And we put the fruit tree in, and it hasn't leafed out yet. It's early spring, and we've just purchased it. What we want to do first on this, we don't want the fruit first. What we want is to encourage the roots. And what we want is to encourage the roots to go down deep into the earth and find its own food, to find its own water and its own nutrients. So the way we're going to do that is when we plant this tree, we are going to put nice soil in around it, and we are going to soak it. We're going to put the hose on that, and we are going to soak it. And normally what I do is I will take, if I buy a bare root plant, I'll soak it for a couple of hours in a bucket of water so that the roots rehydrate, so that there's so that we have done no damage to the root system. The roots are the most important. If they survive, chances are good everything else is going to survive. But if they do not survive, everything up above is at a loss. So when you decide, okay, I'm going to fertilize this puppy, the first thing you're going to do is check for a fertilizer that has a large last number, okay? Because that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to promote root growth. Once the roots get established and the plant is doing well, the rest of it can't help but do well if the roots are good. So your next thing that you'll look at when you see this tree is you say, okay, seems like the roots have connected and they've kicked in and they're growing well. What are we going to do next? Next, we focus on the leaves. The leaves do the photosynthesis for the plant. They're like the solar collectors. They suck up the energy that a plant needs from the heavens, in order to grow. So you'll notice, on like large broadleaf plants like hostas, those are more shade loving. You notice that the leaves are large, and that's so that they can maximize solar input. Um, so leaves would be our second priority. Once we know the plant is established, normally, if you are in the business of growing fruit, your first year, you take the fruit off. You don't let the tree do that because it takes so much energy to produce a peach or pear or strawberry that you want them to, if they're a perennial plant, um, and when I say perennial plant, a perennial is a plant that comes back every year if you've treated it right and deer haven't eaten it and no one's parked a truck on it, snowplow didn't hit it, um, but they're supposed to come back. So that's a perennial. Um, so with like a strawberry plant or a peach tree, it's suggested that you remove the fruit the first year. It's heartbreaking to do that, but you got other work to do. you got other things to eat. So do the right thing by the plant, um, and take care of the fruit last. Okay, so that's how fertilizer breaks down. So when we're talking about what a plant needs, and companion planting, we'll go over this. But for example, if you are working on the beds out here, you've got a you've got a bed that you're using for vegetables, start that bed with the legumes. Legumes would be your peas and your beans. What these plants do is they fix nitrogen into the soil. Okay, so peas, I mean, by St. Patrick's Day, a lot of people have their peas planted. When those are in the ground, they are fixing nitrogen into the soil. And you can tell this when you pull a plant out, it will have little nodules, like little balls on the root system. And that shows you that that plant is pushing nitrogen into the soil. Okay? So nitrogen is the first number um, on the fertilizers. So when we pull the peas out because they're done, they're not going to give us any more. What they've done is they've left behind nice nitrogen in the soil. So follow that up with a plant that will benefit from those nitrogens. Get your Swiss chard in there. Get your lettuce in there. Get anything with a green leafy leaf that you want to eat. Follow the peas and follow the beans with those, and they'll benefit from the nitrogen. Sure.
So like we planted green beans, so we shouldn't put green beans back in that same spot?
Well, you shouldn't because of you should do plant rotation, which we can cover now. The reason for plant rotation is that you take a benefit from what preceded it. Okay, like nitrogen from the peas will benefit the lettuce or the chard that follows. If you continue to put the same vegetable in the same place, in the same box every year, uh, you are more likely to have disease problems left over from the last year. And he goes, "Oh, I know this crop. Let's climb on board and decimate it." Well, she's not looking, right? So it's better when you have a garden. Is For me, I always did a 3 or 4 group rotation. For example, if you know, my mom had a big garden. My parents had, my mom and dad, huge gardens, and so when I think about gardening, it's always on a bigger scale. But I divide things into threes and I rotate them. So it might be your cold crops, your lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, chards, anything you can plant early, and then your tomatoes and peppers and eggplants, those can't go in the ground yet. And then later your vines, your tomatoes and cucumbers. And I think of them as little families. So 1, 2, 3. The next year move them down. 2, 3, 1. Next year move them down. 3, 1, 2. That way they have 2 years between going back to that location for anything that would decimate them to have been dealt with by the other family members. Okay, so it's best to rotate your beds, best to rotate your gardens. I'm sorry.
Garlic as well.
Well, garlic is a heavy feeder. So yeah, I think it's good to bump that out because they are a very heavy, because they're a bulb, they're a very heavy feeder. So yeah, I think that you should, if unless you do tons of amendments, but because we want to garden without the use of chemicals, it behooves us to move it to another location every year. A 2 or 3 year cycle is best.
So again, I'm sorry, when you say
No.
no chemicals, which I don't use, but I will use sometimes organic fertilizer.
Yeah, and that's fine.
That's fine.
What I'm talking about is, you understand that when you go to a store to buy a hanging basket, it was grown in a big old greenhouse with drip irrigation, and everybody is getting the same water. They're getting the same medicine. They're getting the same chemicals, whether they need them or not. So what happens, it gets pumped in there, and there's no legislation that says we have a right to know what's in our plants. Um, there's no way to put a marker on a basket to tell you what they put in there. So when they use a systemic, for example, aphids is a big problem with very soft foliage, the new growth. Oh, the aphids love that, right? They can't get enough of it. Well, if they're dealing with aphids in a greenhouse, everybody's getting that chemical, and that's a systemic. So when the plant opens its little flowers, it's in there. And when the bees come, they don't know that's in there. They're trusting you. They're gone. Huh? Hummingbirds? Butterflies? Yeah, let's poison them all while we're at it. So once it's in the plant, it's in the plant. And you don't know. But you need to assume that if it came from those places that buy it in and don't grow it themselves, those places that just sell plants and have no idea what they're doing, um, uh, it will have chemical on there, and they can deny it till the cows come home, but they cannot prove it. Do you know what I'm saying? And when the damage is done, the damage is done on the first dose. So think twice before you purchase. That's the best thing you could do for the next 7 generations.
So you're talking like the bigger box stores, like a Tractor or something like that. But what about local farms?
I
Like
think local farms, you
or like those, like a Cowards or a Calvary's or something like that. What do you think of those kind of things?
I think that those are honest farmers who basically know what they're doing. Um, and a lot of them are friends of mine. But remember, the bottom line in a large greenhouse operation is money. That's what they're there for. And they're not going to sacrifice a plant and carry it out to the dumpster. Um, you know what I mean? That is not what their line of business is. So think twice before you do those impulse buys at Tractor Supply, or and you know the greenhouses that pop up, and they're not growing a darn thing. They're selling, but they cannot tell you. They cannot tell you anything. Okay, so we've covered that. The next thing, and I don't know how we're doing for time, so the next thing that I'd like to talk about is soil. Um, soil.
I don't know if this is appropriate.
Yes, always appropriate.
But, mulch,
Uh-huh.
does that ruin the soil
Mulch?
if you get the wrong kind?
No, but when you are applying anything on your garden, you should know where it came from. I mean, very often, I have a girlfriend who does a huge organic farm, and she had compost, organic compost, brought to her farm, and it was filled with shards of glass and all kinds of things. Yeah, yeah. So remember, they're in the business of selling to you. So buyer beware. Ask questions, take a look. And before you do a big investment, take a look at what they're selling you. I've had problems where people have gotten topsoil and nothing will grow in it. You know what I mean? You pay a lot of money for that to be dropped off, delivered, days and days and days and days and days of moving soil around. Your body hurts and then nothing grows in it. So maybe do business with a smaller firm that knows exactly whose farm they got that manure from, or you know what I mean, so that the chain is smaller, and you'll be able to do better.
Just still about mulch.
That's okay.
We mulch a lot of areas,
Mm-hmm.
around our house, and we were buying inexpensive mulch, and we noticed that little spots of mold were going siding.
Uh-huh.
When we talked to somebody and they said that's the cheap mulch. So we switched to a better mulch, no more of that happening.
Mhm.
So I think if there's mold going on your house, what's going into the soil, you know?
Exactly right. And because it's for sale doesn't mean you want to buy it. You know what I mean?
Wood chip mulch, I'm sorry, like, are you talking about mulch that goes on flower beds, or are you
Yeah.
talking about a garden mulch?
No, it goes on flower bed.
So, flower bed, yeah. They're different.
Well,
It was all like close around our house, so we were getting these spots on the siding. And we found out it was the cheap mulch.
mhm.
And so I think, well, that has to be going down too into the soil, you know?
Yeah. What is above is also below. So you need to be careful there. Okay, let's talk about soil next because I do want to get through a lot of things. Um, Hartland has pretty nice soil. Connecticut's got pretty nice soil. You can get nice soil if you can find it, right? If you can get through the rocks, but you can grow it. So let's talk about the pros and cons of different soils. Sand. Um, Sand is a really great compound if you want to use it, that area for the propagation of plants. It drains quickly, it warms quickly. Um, and so if you wanted to do some rooted cuttings of trees and shrubs, a bed of sand would be a good option. The colonists in New England, when they were putting in their gardens, always put them, the L of the kitchen always had a south facing wall. And so the heat bouncing off of that was where they could get their early foods in, their onions and their early leafy greens, because that area would warm up quicker and be sheltered from a north or west wind, which makes a big difference in a plant's life. So sand is a um, good addition to a garden as it helps to break up the molecules of earth, but it helps to warm and drain. Okay, so we like sand, except that it contains no nutrients. Um, but if you, for example, you have let's move next to clay. The next type of soil would be a clay. And everybody thinks if they have a clay soil, like at a party, they need to whisper that. Like it's a dirty, you get me, right? It's like it's a dirty word. I'm ashamed to say I have clay, and, and everyone steps away from you. Oh, that's bad. Clay is not bad. Clay is very, very high in nutrients. So, in order to get to those nutrients, all you need to do is mix some organic matter in there, be it sand, be it compost, be it wood chips, whatever, to get that to start breathing. The problem with clay is it doesn't drain well. And drain, poor drainage is really bad for plants, and we'll talk about that. But uh, clay, clay is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful soil if you're willing to put in a little time and break it up. It's already got the nutrients it needs in there. It's like somebody packed their garbage really tight. You know what I mean? So clay is good, but needs to be amended and needs to be put into a better drainage situation.
Is playground sand safe to use?
Playground sand is safe when you bag that, they buy it bagged. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, it's safe because um, those people have their name on that bag. And I mean, what are you going to put in sand? It doesn't hold nutrients, it doesn't hold chemicals. So, yeah, playground sand is great for breaking it up. It improves drainage, but it makes the soil heavier too. So you can now, but it's better than doing nothing. So sand, leaves, um, wood chips, anything that breaks it up and improves the drainage. Plants need air in the soil. They need They need to be able to breathe. They take in water. They send out carbon monoxide. They take that back in. Well, I'm saying they take in the carbon monoxide. They put out carbon dioxide. Um, so they are a lung system. They're breathing. So when they inhale, they take out a lot of toxins, and they need to be flushed from the plant. Okay. So as long as you don't try to grow your plants where it's too wet and the plants can breathe in and out, in and out, in with the good, out with the bad kind of thing, um, that is you have to be careful of drainage. The next soil kind is a loam, and this is what we are all dying for. That black, silky, wonderful loam. And what this is just years and years and years of composting. Creator has given us a way to build beautiful soil, and it's just composting. So maybe somewhere in your yard or in your place, have a place where you are putting your leaves and your weeds. Never in a compost pile should you put meat scraps. You should not put any citrus in there, and you should not put anything that is diseased. Okay?
That is what?
Disease, that has any disease on the leaf. And because you're going to be running your garden so professionally, you'll have very little disease on the leaves that you need to deal with. But when in doubt, throw it out. All right? Don't reincorporate that into your gardens.
Curious about the citrus. I hadn't heard that, and I don't have a lot, but I put a few lemons.
Yeah, they don't do well. They don't do well in a compost pile. I'm sure there's other ways to use citrus, but yeah, not in a compost pile. Meat,
But they
meat,
don't degrade.
they don't. No, they don't break down. And the thing about citrus too is you have to remember that when you buy an orange, it's been dyed so that you would buy it. You know what I mean? So it's been sprayed. It's at your home. So don't put that in your compost pile. All right.
And bears come after them, get with meat
Yeah, you can't trust them.
in it.
Oh, don't laugh. I showed up last March to my greenhouse, and a bear had climbed up and over it. And how did I know? Because a big claw marks pulled the plastic down as it went over the top. Because I'm thinking he was really in a hurry to get to a dumpster and couldn't go around. So I came, and there's plastic flapping on my greenhouse. Like, yep. So yeah, we don't do anything that encourages bears. All right, so loam is wonderful, and then they break loam down to like a sandy loam, so it's rich but it drains well. Drainage is the number one, or lack of, is one of the most important things to pay attention to in gardening, because it will kill your plants. Overwatering. Oh, we are the worst. We really like to control everything. So when we water a house plant, we water the daylights out of it, whether it needs it or not, right? So, in my opinion, for like these house plants, this is a good sized plant for this ivy, because you can't overwater it; it'll dry out quickly. And when you move a plant up, you just move it up another inch. You never move it up to a huge pot, because, and the reason being, it would grow there well if you knew what you were doing, but you overwater. We always overwater. So drainage being really, really important in your plant material.
Are there any vegetable gardens? I have the back of my garden has really bad drainage. Put in a system. But are there any vegetables that are water loving, like that could tolerate?
Well, cress. Um, but I think what you need to do is then over that area, maybe for a couple of years, would be to either do a raised bed over it, or to do straw bale gardening. And I think one of the classes that we're going to do here, are we doing straw bale? I think we are going to we're going to make sure that we do cover straw bale gardening, because I would like to do a few straw bale gardens out here for the people to practice on. But I think that's a very good thing to do in a wet area. It gets you up, but the straw will wick up water. You'll be able to grow in those bales without having to go out there and water. The roots will find their way down in a wet area. Then you can begin to build. So that straw becomes a compost that can be turned into that wet area. And maybe instead of carrying in dump truck loads of fill, maybe you want to garden in straw for a few years and let that become your organic layer that begins to mix in with the soil. It would be a really good money saver, and I'm about that. I think we're wise to do that, and it would be what the soil needs to begin with would be organic matter to help. But sometimes it can't be helped. So the water is there, and unless you do some major work, it's going to stay there. So be a smart New Englander and work your way around it. You know what I mean? There are other things that you can do.
We have horses.
Uh-huh.
We use our manure.
Yeah, use your manure, but use that manure after a couple of years.
Well, yeah, it's like 7, 8 years old. But
Yeah.
what happens is, it's very dry.
Yep.
So it makes our beds really dry.
Mm-hmm.
So we started mixing some of the manure with some mulch.
Yeah, mix the manure in with your compost instead of putting it on just that way. You have a compost pile going?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do compost layer manure, compost layer manure,
Okay.
and the water, it'll mix in itself. When you're starting a compost pile, start with a good layer of cardboard. Um, Cardboard is wonderful. First, it drowns out all the roots and weeds and things underneath it, but it encourages earthworms to that section. It's like a calling card. It's like a blinking light. You know what I mean? Come here, come here. They love cardboard. So don't be throwing those boxes to the dump. Start using those on the bottom of your raised beds and on your compost piles, because worms love it. So at my place, like I've got 3 truckloads of mulch that will be going down, wood chips that will be going down this year. I have piles of cardboard. I'll put cardboard down first, then the wood chips, and the worms come and they just eat the cardboard and then they're into the wood chips. I have the soil on my property is magnificent, black, wonderful, wonderful. But it's been years of wood chipping, and wood chipping because I had so much bramble and so much brush, I couldn't do anything else. You know what I mean? You have to make a plan. All right. So we've talked about. So the next thing I want to talk about is temperature. When we talk temperature, you hear the announcer on the radio say, "Hey, today's 70 degrees. Get out there and get in the garden." Well, it might be 70 degrees for one day in March, but that doesn't mean anyone told the soil that. You know what I'm saying to you? So what's important is not the air temperature, but the soil temperature. Um, I have, oh, I could write a book. I have people come to me and, "Why aren't your impatiens out for sale? The sun is shining. Why don't you have basil out?" And it's like, because the earth is so cold that if you put a plant into that cold earth, that is not a cold loving plant. Here again, we're talking roots. They will wither, they will die. And the plant above might hold on for a little while and give you hope. But what's underneath it, the root system, is collapsed. It's dead. It's frozen. I was taught by my people, when you're ready to plant the warm crops, take your shoes off. Go barefoot into the garden and you stand out there for half an hour. And if you're not whining and complaining, then then you can think about putting in your warm crops. But if your feet can't take it for half an hour, what do you think those warm lovers are going to do? You're not, and once you shock a plant, you have to be one kind of a gardener, an incredible gardener, to get that plant back up to snuff. And do you have time for that? You know what I mean? A little nursery ward for plants that you've abused. It's like it's not good. So you hear me. So when we talk temperature, we're talking. I'm talking. Everybody else, I don't care what they say. I'm talking earth temperature. That's where the gold is. Know what your earth temperature is. And you don't have to go out and buy a fancy thermometer. Take shoes off. Show some respect to your plants. You know what I mean? See if that soil is warm enough. And once it warms up, then plant. Anything you plant, I laugh. I have friends who farm hundreds and hundreds of acres. Hundreds of acres. They are not hauling their tomatoes out at the end of May to put them in the ground. They are not. Because they have thousands of them to plant. Oh no, they're waiting until the earth is warm. And when you pop them in there, the earth is warm, and they take off, no worries. You will not suffer the loss you suffer when you plant early. And this craziness of planting early, I think it's to impress your neighbors. I really do. I think it's a race. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, no problem. I have free time. I got my tomatoes planted. It's only March. I say, yeah, and you won't be honest that you've lost them all. So soil temperature, pay attention to that. Okay, some plants like it cold. For example, I'm growing sweet peas. I adore them. So I have hundreds of sweet peas, but I have timed my planting of the sweet pea. And I've watched them, I've watered them, and I see that the pea has just popped open, little curl coming out for the roots. Perfect. Now I don't want her to get big because I want to grow her cold. A lot of plants like to be grown cold. Sweet pea is one of those. A lot of your biennials are like that too. Um, so what I'll do is come Wednesday, it's on my calendar, sweet peas will be moved outside and they'll be covered from the wind, because the wind is the worst enemy to a plant. They'll be covered from the wind, but they'll get the sunlight they need. They'll get those cold nights they love, and they'll get that perky little sun, a little bit of warmth in the morning, and then they'll start to grow and they'll be hardy and beautiful. If you grow certain plants, and those are called cold hardy plants, if you grow those too warm, you may get a leggy plant, but you won't get a strong, you know, Celtic plant, a strong Nordic plant. You know what I'm talking about? We want strong plants. So pay attention to temperatures and what those plants need. Do some research. Plant seeds cost a lot of money. So don't take it for granted that they all want the same thing. They don't. So there'll be a whole crop of things leaving my greenhouse in the next couple of weeks, and there'll be my pansies, my violas, my sweet peas. Who else is going out? Ooh, I got a lot of herbs going out. A lot of. So there's my first family will be going out in March, followed by the next family that will go out in April. But here's the deal: when you're growing seedlings, and we'll talk about that, when you move them out, they need to be hardened off. Never, when you buy a plant from like any of those places, what they've done is they've ordered the plants, they've been put on a rack, they've been wrapped in cellophane, they've been put on a truck, they've been moved to where they're going. The cellophane comes off, the plants go out, and the plants are going like, what is this? is like, this is cold and we don't like it. It doesn't matter. They'll be sold in a day. Buyer beware. Yeah? You need to harden them off. Putting a plant from the greenhouse where you think that they have light, but they do have a film above them that takes some of the harshness of the light. You know, they may have air moving in the greenhouse, but they do not have wind. And so when you put a new plant outside from the greenhouse straight outside, it's like putting a newborn baby naked in the sun. Who would do that? So you need to bring them out and gently get them used to colder temperatures, less sunlight, more sunlight, but most importantly, wind. Wind is the one element that will do the most damage on your farm, on your plants, on your seedlings. So what I do is I have cold frames. So everything that I grow, I move out to a cold frame and take care of that first. And that cold frame opens always to the east, okay? Because the normally in this area, the prevailing, the heavy, hardest winds are west and northwest. So if you can open your cold frame to the east and protect them from the wind from the north and the west, you get them used to gently being moved, which strengthens the root system, which stimulates the root system. It strengthens the plant itself. And then by the time it's ready to be sold, it's not a newborn baby that you're putting out. It's a well-grown plant. Okay. Um, I think, are we out of time?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's where I want to stop today. Uh, and I can ask all the questions you want. That's why I'm stopping.
I just, when you were talking about really soaking roots, what about when you're gonna plant bulbs that are like dry, they're dry?
No. What happens if you soak a bulb and then you plant it? It's wet. There's no roots, so it's not um, using the food you've just provided it with. Better to take that bulb and plant it to the right depth. Normally, when you're planting a bulb, twice as deep as the bulb is big. So if you have a 1 inch bulb, go 2 inches. Got a 2 inch bulb, go 4 inches. Twice as deep as the bulb is big. All right. Um, do not soak it first, because what's going to happen is that water is going to lay around there. The soil around the bulb is going to hold that water to the bulb, and if it turns cold or the earth isn't warm yet, it's just going to start rot. And once that does rot, you're not getting it back. So better that they go in dry and just trust. Creator loves you. He wants your garden to be beautiful. Let him water.
So I have 2 questions. So, would spinach be a good cold plant to put in after where my string beans were?
Yep.
Last year?
Yep.
Okay,
Beautiful.
Okay, and, the cardboard, so, in the soil, in the garden, raised bed, so the soil's pretty rich, but would I dig out the soil?
No,
put
you're
some
done. We're
cardboard-
done with that. Do the cardboard on the next garden you do. Or if you're gonna do a straw bale, put cardboard down first. It will stop you from weeding.
and then
Put your straw bale down and the worms will come. I don't know what it is, they're really tuned into it.
Okay.
But I have so many worms. It's like, and it's because I put down the cardboard, and they just make quick work of everything. They're not eating the plant material. What they're eating is the bacteria around the roots. But once that is gone, there'll be more, and they stay busy. All right. So hopefully I've covered enough. There's so much to cover. But yeah. Yeah. So next week I think we're doing house plants. And some people don't get along well with house plants. Some people do. But you could. We're not dead yet. So there's hope.
Well, I'll share one of my houseplants. I'm not really a houseplant person, but about 21 years ago, my husband died, but also my best friend, elderly, across from me. And one who inherited her plans could not, keep it, so they gave it to me. And I still have that plan. And it's one of those, I don't know, it's got a little pink flower that comes out, and mine is kind of purplish leaves, whatever. I have no idea what it is. I've had it for about 21 years. And I moved it from window to window. Where it's been the happiest is in the north window.
Mhm.
And it just thrives there. I mean,
Well, if we have 2 minutes, let's cover light, since we didn't. When you're doing your gardens, Catherine, nice to see you.
no, I'm not leaving.
Okay. When you're doing your garden, we didn't cover light, so if we have a minute, let's do that. Morning light is the coolest light. Comes up in the east. Um, Owning a garden shop, I'll say to people, they'll tell me a problem they're having, and I'll say, well, where do you have that plant? And they'll say, oh, next to my garage. Which cracks me up because I have no idea where the garage is. I said, oh, that's good. What time of day does it get light, right? So in the early morning, that light is the coolest. It's always coldest just before the dawn. Like the coldest temperature is just before the sun rises. And that's because the heat of the sun is going to push the cold air down. So if you're going to get a heavy frost or you're going to have a major problem, it's going to be in those early morning hours. So the east garden, in order to be, you know how tags on a plant will say full sun, part sun, whatever. So the morning light, in order to be considered full sun, and you're going to put a plant there, you're going to need 5 to 7 hours of sunlight in the east to be considered full sun. Okay? So when you move to the garden in the west, garden in the south, we're going to go around. Garden in the south, what you need there is about 5 to 6 hours of sunlight a day to be full sun. When you move to the afternoon light is the strongest, the hardest, and the hottest. 4 hours of sunlight from the west is considered full sun. Huh? Who knew? Right? And then in the north, I can't really tell you about the north because if it's up against the house, it's getting no light. But 10 feet out, it might be full sun all day. So you have to pay attention to what time of day you get your sunlight. So when you're beginning to plant your garden, your perennials, and you're choosing plants, remember how much light you get in the area you're planning to put it. And if it says full sun, be honest. We're talking about full sun when all the trees are leafed out. Yeah. You'll see very often a lot of beautiful bulb gardens done under trees. And that's because most spring bulbs grow really early. They're up and out before the leaves are out, and their flowers have passed, and their green leaves are being fed to feed the bulb for the following year. Yes? Yeah. And then when the trees leaf out, it no longer matters that it's dark because they flowered and they re-energized for the following year. Okay? So the only thing I would do under a tree for would be bulbs and that kind of thing, unless you're doing full shade. All right? Good. So next Monday, I think, is houseplants.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Nice to see you.
You too. Come again.